We began our course on ethics fundamentals by opening a discussion on mental models. We conclude this module with a return to mental models. Business consulting expert Peter Senge focuses on systems theory much as we do, and he too stresses the importance of mental models. He says, the discipline of working with mental models starts with turning the mirror inward, learning to unearth our internal pictures of the world, to bring them to the surface and to hold them rigorously to scrutiny. It also includes the ability to carry on learningful conversations that balance inquiry and advocacy, where people expose their own thinking effectively and make that thinking open to the influence of others. If any one idea about leadership has inspired organizations for thousands of years, it's the capacity to hold a shared picture of the future we seek to create. One is hard-pressed to think of any organization that has sustained some measure of greatness in the absence of goals, values, and missions that become deeply shared throughout the organization. IBM had service, Polaroid had instant photography, Ford had public transportation for the masses, and Apple had computing power for the masses. Though radically different in content and kind, all these organizations managed to bind people together around a common identity and sense of destiny. When there is a genuine vision, as opposed to the all-too-familiar vision statement, people excel and learn, not because they're told to, but because they want to. But many leaders have personal visions that never get translated into shared visions that galvanize an organization. All too often, a company's shared vision has revolved around the charisma of a leader or around a crisis that galvanizes everyone temporarily. But given a choice, most people opt for pursuing a lofty goal, not only in times of crisis, but at all times. This excerpt made me realize the difference between a mob and a team. A mob is a crowd of people whose kinetic energy is going off in all different directions. Individuals are at cross purposes. People bounce off one another. In a team, by contrast, all the energy is focused in a single direction, towards a telos. The chief leadership skill in any institution or organization is the ability of the person in charge to articulate a common vision of excellence and to set people free to achieve it. Kinetic energy is now focused in one direction. It's the difference between a lamp which diffuses light in all directions and a laser which focuses it into a point of single crystalline clarity. Imparting the ideal of ethical behavior in a company is one of many things that will motivate people. In How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age, we read, people are more motivated by praise and social encouragement than by material rewards. In most organizations, people of executive position merely pay lip service to excellence or ethical behavior. They just expect people to improvise. Improvisation leads to chaos, contradiction, wasted energy. It conduces to mobs, not teams. Aristotle saw his book on ethics as the first half of a larger masterwork, with politics as its second volume. Ethics was moral behavior on an individual level. Politics was ethical behavior in a larger sociological system. Without ethics, societies break down. Social trust is lost and people stop cooperating. This is why in classical political science, philosophers saw democracy as the decayed, corrupt form of a republic. They saw it as mob rule rather than rule of law. As we discussed before, in antiquity, they said that each form of government had a different telos, a different end goal. The end goal of an oligarchy, for instance, is the transfer of wealth from the many to the few. The end goal of a democracy is equality, while the end goal of a republic is the promotion of virtue among the people. Montesquieu makes the same point in the 1700s. He says that despotisms are motivated by fear, monarchies are motivated by honor, and republics are motivated by virtue. Why they saw democracy as a corrupt version of republic is that in a republic, that shared vision of virtue is articulated. Everyone knows the end goal of the system. Once leaders stop articulating that and people forget the function of the machine, chaos ensues. The team breaks down into a mob. Everybody goes off in different directions. The society becomes incoherent and collapses. Gustave Le Bon, in his 1896 book, The Crowd, did the first study of mass psychology. He paints a disturbing picture of what happens when people are subsumed within a mob. They revert to a lower animal level. An individual who could never have perpetrated an act of violence on his own is suddenly capable of participating in a lynch mob. The crowd, says Le Bon, does not have a brain. It merely has a spinal column. Long story short, in any functional organization, the leader is charged with articulating a shared vision, a telos. Without that, teams become mobs. Ethics is a manner by which people in large social systems can not only get along with each other, but can create a more dynamic synergy. The lamp turns into a laser. Potential energy is converted into kinetic energy and is focused powerfully in one direction. Societies that make use of a shared vision are capable of great feats. Civilizations, corporations, or any other kind of institution that loses this focus collapses and disappears into the sands of history. We live in a world filled with fear and intimidation so that the truth won't be spoken. Presented by The New American, The Ben Armstrong Show says the things that others are afraid to say. Find information and truth to arm you against the lies. Watch every weekday on The New American.